My name's Emily and I'm 28. Picture this. I'm standing in a bridal shop, the silk of my wedding dress brushing my skin, my heart racing with joy. James. My fiancé and I were counting down to our big day. Everything felt perfect, like a dream I'd waited years for. But my younger sister Clara, she'd been acting strange, her eyes cold at family dinners. Something was off, and I couldn't shake it. Have you ever trusted someone so much only to feel a crack in that bond? I'm sharing my story because it changed me forever. Where are you watching from? Hit that like button and subscribe to hear what happened next. The bridal shower was in full swing at my mom's house, a cozy ranch-style place filled with balloons and laughter. I stood by the dessert table, a glass of sparkling cider in hand, chatting with my best friend Hannah about the flower arrangements. My mom Diane buzzed around, refilling plates with mini sandwiches, her smile wide but a little forced. Clara, my younger sister, was tucked in a corner, scrolling her phone, her face half hidden by her dark curls. She hadn't said much all day, and when I caught her eye, she looked away fast, like I'd caught her stealing cookies as a kid. I tried to shake it off. Clara had always been a bit moody, especially since our dad passed when I was 18 and she was just 12. I'd stepped up, becoming more than a sister, almost a second mom. I worked extra shifts at the bakery to keep the lights on, and I set up a trust fund to cover her college tuition and our household bills. I never told her, though. I wanted her to focus on her studies, not feel indebted. The locket I wore, a silver oval with Dad's initials, reminded me of that promise every day. It was my way of keeping him close, of honoring his wish to hold our family together. But something was gnawing at me. Clara had skipped the cake cutting, mumbling about a headache, and slipped out to the porch. I followed, hoping to pull her into the fun. The air was warm, the scent of jasmine from Mom's garden thick around us. Clara leaned against the railing, her thumbs flying over her phone screen. I cleared my throat. "You okay? You've been quiet all day." She shrugged, not looking up. "Just tired. School's been rough." I nodded, trying to keep it light. "You sure? I mean, this is kind of a big deal for me. Thought you'd be hyped about the open bar at the wedding." I grinned, but her lips barely twitched. "I'll be there," she said, her voice flat. "Don't worry about me." I wanted to press to ask what was eating at her, but Hannah called me back inside for a toast. The rest of the shower was a blur of hugs and cheesy games, but Clara's distance stuck with me. As I helped Mom clean up later, stacking plates in the kitchen, I overheard Clara's voice from the living room, low and sharp, talking to Diane. "It's gonna be big, Mom. She won't see it coming." My hands froze on a dish. Diane's reply was too soft to catch, but her tone was nervous, like she was trying to calm Clara down. I told myself it was nothing, maybe some silly surprise for the wedding. But my gut twisted. Clara had always been impulsive, but this felt different, like a storm brewing just out of sight. Back home that night, I sprawled on my couch, still in my floral dress from the shower, scrolling through wedding Pinterest boards. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "We need to talk. Urgent." My heart skipped. James wasn't the cryptic type. He'd usually send a goofy meme or a quick "miss you." I typed back, "Everything okay?" No reply. I stared at the screen, the glow casting shadows on my living room walls. The locket felt heavy against my chest, like it was trying to warn me. I tossed the phone aside, telling myself it was just wedding stress. James was probably freaking out about the guest list or the budget. But as I lay there, the quiet of my apartment pressing in, Clara's words echoed in my head. She won't see it coming. I sat up, my pulse quickening. What was she planning? And why did James sound so serious? I grabbed my keys, ready to drive to his place, but stopped at the door. Whatever it was, I'd face it tomorrow. For now, I just needed to breathe. Morning came too fast, the sunlight slicing through my blinds like a reminder I couldn't hide. I hadn't slept much, James's text looping in my mind. I pulled on a sweater and jeans, the locket cool against my skin, and drove to the coffee shop where we'd agreed to meet. The place was busy, the hiss of the espresso machine mixing with low chatter. James sat in a corner booth, his usual easy smile gone. His hands gripped a folded piece of paper, his knuckles pale. I slid into the seat across from him, my stomach nodding. "Hey," I said, trying to sound calm. "What's going on?" "You're freaking me out." He didn't meet my eyes at first, just pushed the paper toward me. "Clara sent me this," he said, his voice tight. "You need to see it." I unfolded it, my fingers clumsy. It was a medical report, the kind with crisp letterhead and clinical terms. My eyes snagged on the words. Pregnancy confirmed. Patient, Clara Thompson. Below it, a grainy ultrasound image, a tiny shape curled in black and white. My breath caught. I looked up at James, expecting a punchline, but his face was stone. "This is a joke, right?" I forced a laugh, but it came out brittle. "Clara's not pregnant. And with you?" "Come on, James, you barely know her." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "She sent it to my office yesterday. Said it's mine. Emily, I swear I've never been alone with her. Not once. But this, it's messing with my head." I stared at the paper, the words blurring. Clara and James had only met at family gatherings, awkward small talk over potlucks or board games. The idea of them together was absurd, like a plot from a bad soap opera. But the report looked real, the clinic's logo crisp, the dates precise. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Clara had been distant, sure, but this, it was too far, too cruel. "James," I said, my voice shaking, "you don't believe this, do you? She's my sister. She wouldn't do this." He leaned back, rubbing his face. "I don't know what to believe. I trust you, Em, but it's a lot. If it's not true, why would she send it? What's her deal?" I didn't have an answer. My thoughts spun to Clara at the shower, her cold shrug, her whispered words to Mom. She won't see it coming. Was this what she meant? A fake report to wreck my life? I pushed the paper back toward James, my hands trembling. "This isn't real. It can't be. I'll talk to her. I'll fix this." James nodded, but his eyes were distant, like he was already halfway out the door. "I hope you're right. But we need to figure this out. Fast." I left the coffee shop in a daze, the report stuffed in my purse. The morning air was crisp, but I felt feverish, my heart pounding too loud. I called Hannah as I walked to my car, my voice cracking as I told her everything. She listened, then said, "Em, this is insane. Clara's got issues, but you need to confront her. Now." I know, I said, sliding into the driver's seat. "I'm going to her place. I need answers." Hannah's voice softened. "Be careful. And call me after." "Okay, I'm here." I hung up, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Clara's apartment was across town, a small studio I'd helped her afford without her knowing. Every rent payment, every tuition check had come from me, funneled through that trust fund. And now this. I thought of the locket, Dad's initials etched in silver, and felt a surge of betrayal. I'd given Clara everything, and she was tearing my world apart. As I drove, the city blurred past storefronts and stoplights, fading into noise. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. All I could see was Clara's smirk, her careless shrug. Whatever game she was playing, it ended today. I pulled into her complex, my pulse racing, and parked. Her door was up ahead, and I wasn't leaving without the truth. Clara's apartment door was scuffed paint peeling at the edges, and the faint hum of a TV leaked through. I knocked hard, my knuckles stinging, the locket bouncing against my chest. No answer. I knocked again, louder, my pulse hammering in my ears. Finally, the door creaked open, and there she was in sweatpants and a loose tee, her phone still in hand, like it was glued there. She raised an eyebrow, unbothered, like I was some delivery guy dropping off a package. "Emily." "What's with the banging?" Her voice was casual, almost bored. I stepped inside without waiting for an invite, the air thick with the smell of burnt toast. Her studio was a mess, clothes strewn over a futon, dishes piled in the sink. I pulled the pregnancy report from my purse and held it up, my hand shaking. "Explain this, Clara. You sent this to James. What the hell are you doing?" She glanced at the paper, then back at me, her lips curling into a half smirk. "Oh, that. Yeah, I sent it. So what?" My breath caught, like someone had punched me in the gut. I'd expected denial, maybe tears, but not this. Not her standing there smug, like she'd won some game I didn't even know we were playing. "So what? You're claiming you're pregnant with my fiance's kid. You think this is funny? You're ruining my life." Her smirk faded, but her eyes stayed cold like she was sizing me up. "Ruining your life? Please, Emily. You've got everything. The perfect guy. The perfect wedding. Maybe James isn't as perfect as you think." I felt heat rush to my face, my voice rising before I could stop it. "What's that supposed to mean? You don't even know him. You've met him, 5 times? Why are you doing this?" I was shouting now. My hands clenched, the report crumpling in my fist. Clara crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. "Maybe I'm tired of you always getting what you want. Ever think of that? You act like you're some saint, but you're just controlling. You love playing the hero." Her words hit like a slap. Controlling, I'd spent years scraping by, working double shifts at the bakery, funneling every extra dime into her tuition, her rent, her life. Also, she could stand here spitting venom, accusing me of, being too good to her. I stepped closer, my voice low, trembling. "You have no idea what I've done for you. None. And you pull this? You're sick, Clara." She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made my skin crawl. "Sick. Look at you all high and mighty. If you're so perfect, why's James doubting you? Maybe he's seeing what I see." I wanted to scream, to shake her until that smirk fell off her face. Instead, I turned away, my eyes burning, and caught sight of a framed photo on her shelf, us as kids, gap-toothed and giggling, building a sandcastle on some forgotten beach. Back when she'd cling to me when I'd braid her hair and promise to keep her safe. The memory stung sharp and raw like a blade twisting in my chest. A knock at the door broke the silence. A guy poked his head in, lanky with a scruffy beard, his voice hesitant. "Clara. Everything okay?" I heard yelling. He looked at me, then her, clearly uncomfortable. "Marcus, it's fine," Clara snapped, waving him off. "My sister's just having a meltdown." I glared at her, my throat tight. "This isn't over, Clara. You're going to tell me why. All of it." I shoved the report back in my purse and pushed past Marcus, ignoring his offer to talk. The hallway air felt suffocating, my steps echoing as I stormed to my car. Clara's words kept looping in my head. "You're just controlling." She didn't know the half of it, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep her secrets or mine from breaking me apart. I drove home in a fog, the city lights smearing into streaks through my windshield. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached, Clara's words still burning in my ears. I wanted to call Hannah to spill everything, but my phone stayed untouched in the passenger seat. I felt raw, like my skin had been peeled back, every nerve exposed. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw James's car parked outside, and my heart sank. I wasn't ready for this, not now. Inside the apartment was dim, the only light from a lamp in the living room. James sat on the couch, a duffel bag at his feet, his face drawn. My stomach twisted as I set my purse down, the crumpled pregnancy report still inside. "You're here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I went to Clara's. She didn't deny it. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept either. "What did she say?" "Tell me, Emily. I need to know." I sank into a chair, my legs shaky. She admitted sending the report. Said I'm controlling, that I always get what I want. "She's jealous, James. She wants to hurt me." My voice cracked, and I hated how weak it sounded. I wanted to be strong to fix this, but I felt like I was drowning. James stood pacing, his hands raking through his hair. "Jealous. That's her excuse." This isn't just about you. She's saying I'm the father. Me. I've never even..." He stopped, his voice breaking. "I can't do this. I need space. I need to think." The word, space, hit like a brick. I stared at him, my throat tightening. "Space. James, you're leaving. Now." When I'm trying to figure this out, my eyes landed on the duffel bag, and it clicked. He was packed, ready to go. My chest caved in, a hollow ache spreading fast. "I'm not leaving you," he said. But his voice was unsteady, like he was convincing himself. This is too much. I trust you, but that report, her lies, it's messing with me. I need a couple days." I stood, my hands trembling. "A couple days, James. My sister's trying to ruin us, And you're walking out? I'm the one dealing with her with all of this. My voice rose sharp and jagged, and I didn't care. I felt betrayed not just by Clara, but by him. By everyone. He grabbed his bag, his jaw tight. I'm not walking out. I'll be at my brother's. Just call me when you sort it out. He paused at the door, his eyes softening for a moment. I love you, Em. I do. The door clicked shut, and the silence was deafening. I stood there frozen, staring at the spot where he'd been. My eyes fell on the counter where his engagement ring sat, a simple silver band glinting under the lamp. He'd taken it off, left it behind. My knees buckled and I sank to the floor, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. I don't know how long I sat there, the hardwood cold against my palms. My phone buzzed and I grabbed it, hoping it was James. It was Hannah. I answered, my voice hollow. He's gone, Hannah. James left. Clara's winning. Hold on, she said, her voice fierce. I'm coming over. But listen, I checked Clara's social media. She's posting stuff, Em. Cryptic crap about teaching lessons. I'm sending you screenshots. The screenshots came through as we talked, and I opened them, my hands shaking. Clara's posts were vague but vicious. Some people think they're untouchable. Not for long. Another had a photo of her smirking at a bar captioned "Karma's Patient." My blood boiled. She wasn't just lying. She was gloating, parading her betrayal like a trophy. Hannah arrived, her arms wrapping around me as I showed her the posts. She's jealous, Hannah said, her voice low. Your life, your engagement, it's eating her up. And your mom's probably egging her on, always comparing you two. I nodded, thinking of Mom's favoritism, how she'd excuse Clara's tantrums while I was left to clean up. I'd given up so much, working nights to pay Clara's bills, skipping grad school to keep us afloat. And for what? For her to stab me in the back. I opened my laptop, the trust fund account login staring back at me. My finger hovered over the screen, temptation clawing at me. I could end it all, cut her off, let her face the world without my safety net. The thought was intoxicating, but it scared me too. Who was I if I stopped being her protector? Mom's dining room was packed, the long oak table covered with her best linen candles flickering in the center. It was supposed to be a pre-wedding family dinner, a chance to smooth things over, but the air felt thick like a storm about to break. I sat between Hannah and my cousin Lila, picking at a plate of roasted chicken, my stomach too knotted to eat. Clara was across from me, her hair pulled back, her smile tight as she chatted with Mom about some TV show. She looked so normal, so unbothered, it made my skin crawl. I'd spent the last 2 days replaying her smirk, her venomous words, and James's ring left on my counter. Hannah's screenshots of Clara's posts burned in my mind, each one a jab at my life. I'd hoped tonight might bring clarity, maybe even an apology, but Clara's casual laughter was like nails on a chalkboard. Mom, at the head of the table, kept the conversation light, asking about the wedding cake, but her eyes darted to Clara too often, like she was waiting for something. I couldn't take it anymore. I set my fork down, the clink loud in a pause of chatter, and stood my chair scraping the floor. Every eye turned to me, the room going quiet. Clara. I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. We need to talk. Now. About the pregnancy report you sent James. The silence was instant, heavy, like the air had been sucked out. Mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Lila's eyes widened, and Uncle Greg at the far end coughed into his napkin. Clara's smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed, a glint of defiance in them. Really, Emily? You're doing this here? Her tone was light, almost teasing, but it cut deep. Yeah, here, I said, my voice rising. You sent a fake report claiming you're pregnant with my fiancé's kid. You've been lying, gloating online, trying to ruin my wedding. Why, Clara? What did I ever do to you? Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Emily, what are you talking about? Clara, is this true? Her voice was sharp, but there was a waver, like she didn't want the answer. Clara leaned back, crossing her arms, her lips curling into that same infuriating smirk. Fake, wow. You're really reaching. Maybe I sent it to test James. You know, see if he's loyal. Looks like he failed, huh? She shrugged like it was nothing, like she hadn't shattered my world. My vision blurred, rage and hurt colliding in my chest. Test him. You forged a medical report. You lied to his face to mine. You're not testing anyone. Clara, you're destroying us, I was shouting now, my hands gripping the table, the locket swinging wildly against my collarbone. The room erupted. Lila whispered to Hannah, who nodded, her jaw tight. Uncle Greg muttered something about family drama, while Mom stood, her voice shrill. Both of you stop it. This is not the time or place. Clara laughed, a cold, bitter sound that sent a chill down my spine. Oh, come on, Mom. Emily's just mad because her perfect little life's falling apart. She's always been so controlling, hasn't she? Telling me what to do, acting like she's better than me. Her words were a knife twisting deeper with every syllable. Controlling, I'd worked myself to the bone for her nights at the bakery, weekends, balancing the trust fund, all so she could have a future. And she didn't even know. My voice dropped low and raw. You think I'm controlling. You have no idea what I've done for you. No idea. Clara's eyes flickered a flash of uncertainty, but she doubled down, her voice sharp. What paid for my coffee once? Spare me, Emily. You love playing the martyr. Maybe I'm sick of it. I felt like I was falling, the room spinning as her words echoed. Martyr, I'd given up dreams, sleep, years for her. And she stood there accusing me while Mom just stared, torn between us. The doorbell rang sharp and jarring, and Hannah slipped out to answer it. I didn't care who it was. All I could see was Clara, her defiance, her lies, and the family I'd fought to hold together crumbling before my eyes. Hannah returned, her face pale, and behind her stood James, his coat damp from the evening drizzle. His eyes locked on mine, then shifted to Clara, hardening with a fury I'd never seen. The room, already tense, seemed to tighten further, every breath audible. Mom's voice broke the silence, trembling. James, what's going on? Why are you here? He didn't answer her. Instead, he stepped forward, holding up his phone, his voice low and sharp. I hired a lawyer, Clara. They traced that pregnancy report. It's fake. Forged by some back-alley clinic you paid off. I have the proof. He turned to me, his eyes softening but desperate. Emily, I should have believed you. I'm sorry. My heart lurched, relief and rage tangling inside me. Proof. He had proof. But before I could speak, Clara shot up her chair, tipping back, her face flushed. You're lying. You can't prove anything. Her voice was shrill, but there was a crack in it, a flicker of panic. James didn't flinch. The clinic's records show you paid a nurse to fake the ultrasound. There's a paper trail, Clara. It's over. He glanced at me, his voice softer. I'm so sorry, Em. I let this get to me. The room spun, faces blurring around me. Mom's hands covered her mouth. Uncle Greg leaned forward, whispering to Lila. I wanted to feel vindicated, but all I felt was a hollow ache. Clara's betrayal wasn't just a lie. It was calculated, bought with cash, planned to shatter me. I stepped toward her, my voice barely a whisper. How could you? I've given you everything. Everything. Clara's eyes darted around, cornered, then landed on Mom. Tell her, Mom. Tell her how she's always been the golden child, how you always loved her more. Her voice broke, tears spilling, but they felt performative, like a last-ditch grab for sympathy. Mom flinched, her voice weak. Clara, that's not true. I love you both. But her hesitation, the way her eyes avoided mine, cut deeper than Clara's lies. I saw it then, years of Mom's favoritism, her soft excuses for Clara's tantrums, her silence when I carried the family alone. It wasn't just Clara betraying me. It was Mom, too. I turned back to Clara, my voice shaking with a rage I couldn't contain. You think I'm the golden child? You think I wanted this? I worked myself sick for you, Clara. For years. And you spit in my face. My hands shook, the locket burning against my skin like a brand. Clara's tears stopped, her face twisting into something venomous. Worked for me? Don't act like you're some hero. You just wanted to hold it over me to make me owe you. Well, I don't owe you anything. She grabbed her glass, hurling it to the floor, the shatter echoing like a gunshot. Lila gasped, and Uncle Greg stood muttering about calming down. I froze, the sound ringing in my ears, my vision tunneling. James reached for me, but I pulled away, my chest heaving. Mom was crying now, pleading with Clara to stop, but it was white noise. All I could see was my sister, the girl I'd raised, the girl I'd loved, standing there hating me for sacrifices she didn't even know I'd made. I stumbled toward the door, my legs heavy, the weight of it all crushing me. "I'm done," I said, my voice flat. Empty. "I'm done with you, Clara." I pushed past James, past Mom's outstretched hand, and out into the night, the cold air biting my face. My world was in pieces, and I didn't know how to keep breathing through the wreckage. The night air was sharp as I left Mom's house, my breath clouding in the dark. I drove aimlessly, the radio off, the silence heavy with Clara's final words and the shattered glass echoing in my mind. James's proof. Mom's tears, none of it dulled the ache in my chest. I ended up at a park near my apartment, the same one where Clara and I used to swing as kids. I sat on a bench, the wood damp under me, and stared at the empty playground, my hands clasped tight around the locket. James found me there, his car pulling up quietly. He sat beside me, not touching, just close enough for me to feel his warmth. "I'm sorry I left," he said, his voice low. "I was wrong to doubt you. Can we talk? Really talk?" I nodded, my throat tight. "I want to fix this, James. But not the wedding, not yet. Us. We need to start there." My voice was steady, a small spark of resolve flickering inside me. He agreed, suggesting we postpone the big day, focus on rebuilding trust. It wasn't a solution, but it was a step, and I clung to it. Back home, I couldn't sleep. Clara's accusation, calling me a martyr, gnawed at me. She didn't know, the truth didn't know, I'd been her lifeline. I sat at my desk, a notebook open, and started writing. Not a diary, but a letter to her, every word deliberate. I wrote about the nights I'd stayed up balancing the trust fund, the weekends I'd worked doubles to cover her tuition, the dreams I'd shelved to keep her in school. My pen shook as I poured it out, the rent payments, the utility bills, all funneled through an anonymous account so she'd never feel burdened. I wrote until my hand cramped, the pages filled with a truth I'd hidden too long. The next day I texted Clara, asking to meet at this same park. Neutral ground, no audience, just us. She agreed, her reply curt. I tucked the letter in my purse, my heart pounding as I drove. The park was quiet, the afternoon sun filtering through old oaks. Clara was already there, sitting on a bench, her posture stiff like she was bracing for a fight. I approached the letter, a weight in my hand, and sat across from her. "I'm not here to yell," I said, my voice calm but firm. "But you need to hear this." I pulled out the letter, my fingers steady now, and started reading. My voice carried in the still air, each sentence clear. "When Dad died, I was 18. I took a second job to keep our house. I set up a trust fund for you, Clara. Every month I paid your college fees, your rent, your phone bill. You never knew because I didn't want you to feel like you owed me." Clara's face changed, her eyes, widening, her mouth parting slightly. I kept going, reading about the overtime, the skipped vacations, the quiet pride I'd felt watching her graduate high school. "I did it because I love you," I said, my voice catching. "Because I promised Dad I'd take care of you." She stared at me, her hands twisting in her lap, her bravado gone. "You're lying," she whispered. But there was no heat in it, just shock. You couldn't have." "I did," I said, folding the letter but holding her gaze. "And you took that love and used it to hurt me. You tried to destroy my life." My words hung between us, raw and unyielding. Clara's eyes glistened, but she didn't speak, didn't move. For the first time, I saw her not as my little sister, but as someone who'd chosen to wound me. I stood, the letter still in my hand, my chest tight, but lighter, like I'd shed a layer of grief. "I'm not done," I said, my voice stronger now. "You need to understand what you've done." I turned to leave, the crunch of gravel under my feet loud in the quiet. Something was shifting inside me, a strength I hadn't felt before, ready to carry me forward. I walked away from Clara, the letter still clutched in my hand, her stunned silence trailing behind me. The park's quiet was broken only by a distant dog barking, the late afternoon light casting long shadows across the grass. My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear or anger anymore. It was something new, a clarity that felt like waking up. I'd laid bare the truth, and for the first time I wasn't carrying her weight alone. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, the laptop open to the trust fund account. The numbers stared back a ledger of my sacrifices, tuition payments, rent transfers, utility bills, all for Clara. My finger hovered over the screen, and I exhaled steady and sure. I clicked through the settings, freezing the account with a few keystrokes. No more payments. No more safety net. The finality of it hit me a mix of guilt and relief, but I didn't waver. Clara needed to face her choices, and I needed to stop shielding her from them. My phone buzzed with a call from her college's financial office confirming the account was locked. "Miss Thompson's tuition is now delinquent," the clerk said, her tone clipped. "She'll need to arrange payment or withdraw." I thanked her, my voice calm, and hung up. The decision felt like cutting a tether one I'd been tangled in for years. I redirected the funds to a new account, one for me and James for therapy, for rebuilding what Clara had tried to break. Later I met Marcus, the neighbor from Clara's building, at a diner down the street. He'd texted offering to talk, and I needed an outside perspective. Over greasy fries and coffee, he told me Clara had been evicted, her stuff piled in a friend's garage. "She's crashing on couches now," he said, stirring his mug. "Keeps saying you betrayed her, but I don't buy it. You okay?" I traced the rim of my glass, thinking, "I'm getting there. I've been her crutch too long. It's time I let her fall." My words surprised me, their firmness new. Marcus nodded, sharing his own story of cutting off a toxic brother. "It hurts," he said, "but sometimes it's the only way they learn." That night I sat with my therapist Elise in her small office, the walls lined with books and soft watercolors. I told her about the letter the trust fund, Clara's shock. Elise leaned forward, her voice gentle. "You're reclaiming your power, Emily. But what does that mean for you? Who are you without that role?" The question lingered as I drove home. I'd been Clara's keeper so long I'd forgotten how to be just Emily. In my bedroom, I opened my jewelry box, the locket glinting inside. I lifted it, the silver cool in my palm, and remembered Dad's voice, his quiet strength. I'd worn it to honor him, to hold our family together, but it had become a chain. I set it down, closing the box with a soft click, and felt a weight lift. I wasn't abandoning Dad's love. I was choosing mine. James came over, his eyes hopeful but cautious. We sat on the couch planning a small vow renewal, just us, a promise to start fresh. "No big wedding," I said, my hand in his. "Just truth. That's enough." He squeezed my hand, and I saw the man I loved, flawed but fighting for us. As he left, I stood in my doorway, the night air cool against my face. I looked at the stars faint above the city glow and felt a quiet strength settle in my bones. I'd taken the first steps, not for revenge, but for me. The road ahead wasn't clear, but I was ready to walk it one deliberate step at a time. Weeks passed, and the world felt quieter, like the hush after a slammed door. I heard through Marcus that Clara had dropped out of college, the unpaid tuition forcing her to leave. She'd taken a job at a gas station, working late shifts, her dreams of a degree now just a stack of textbooks gathering dust. I sat with that news on my balcony, a mug of tea cooling in my hands, the city's hum distant below. Part of me ached for her, picturing her in a fluorescent-lit store counting change with tired eyes. But another part, the part that had grown harder, felt a strange calm. She'd made her choices, and I'd made mine. Mom called one evening, her voice thin over the line, like she was holding back tears. "Emily, how could you do this? Clara's struggling. She's lost everything. You have to turn the trust fund back on." Her words were sharp, but there was a pleading edge, a mother's desperation I hadn't heard before. I leaned against my kitchen counter, the phone pressed to my ear, and felt a flicker of old guilt. But I didn't bend. "Mom," I said, my voice even Clara lied to ruin my life. She forged a pregnancy report, tried to break me and James. I've given her everything since I was 18. I'm done. The words came out firm, each one a stone laid between us. Mom's silence was heavy. Then she sighed, a sound of defeat. "She's your sister," she said softly. "You're supposed to take care of her." I closed my eyes, the weight of those words familiar but no longer crushing. I did. For years. She doesn't get to hurt me and keep my help. I hung up my hands steady and stood there, the kitchen clock ticking softly. Mom's call stirred memories of her after Dad died. Her distracted grief leaving me to patch our family together. I'd been the glue, but I wasn't anymore. James and I started therapy with Elise, meeting in her cozy office twice a week. We sat on her worn couch, sunlight slanting through the blinds, and talked about trust, about the cracks Clara's lie had left. James admitted his fear, how the report had made him question everything. I shared my anger, my exhaustion from carrying Clara's life. Elise listened, her questions gentle but piercing, helping us rebuild word by word. It wasn't easy, but it felt honest, like mending a torn quilt. One morning a letter arrived. The envelope creased, Clara's handwriting jagged across the front. I opened it at my dining table, the paper thin in my hands. Her words were messy, spilling over the lines. "You ruined me, Emily. I had to quit school, move out, start over. You think you're so good, but you're selfish. You took everything. No apology, no regret. Just blame, sharp and raw." I read it twice, my chest tight, searching for a hint of the sister I'd loved. There was none. I carried the letter to my fireplace, the hearth cold from disuse. I lit a match, the flame small but steady, and held the paper to it. The edges curled, blackening her words, turning to ash. I watched it burn, my reflection flickering in the glass screen, and felt a shift inside me. Not triumph, but release. Clara's anger wasn't mine to carry. I'd given her a decade of my life, and I was done letting her define me. As the ashes settled, I stood there, the morning light soft through the window, and felt the weight of her absence. It wasn't freedom, not yet, but it was close. Clara was out there struggling, blaming me, and Mom was caught in the middle, her loyalty torn. I'd changed the game, and now we were all living with the fallout, the pieces still falling sharp and unyielding. I was grabbing milk at the grocery store, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, when I felt eyes on me. Two of Clara's friends, girls I vaguely recognized from her Instagram, stood at the end of the aisle whispering. One with a sharp bob and a nose ring stepped forward, her voice loud enough to turn heads. "You're Emily, right? The one who screwed over Clara, real classy, cutting her off like that." Her friends snickered, arms crossed, as shoppers slowed their carts, glancing over. I froze, the milk carton cold in my hand. My first instinct was to shrink, to slip away. But then I saw Hannah, who'd been picking out cereal nearby. She strode over, her eyes blazing. "Back off," she said, her voice low but fierce. "You don't know the half of it. Clara lied, forged documents, tried to wreck Emily's life. Maybe ask your friend about that." The girl with the nose ring faltered, her bravado slipping, but she muttered, "Whatever, Clara's the one suffering now." They walked off, their whispers fading, but the weight of their words lingered. I set the milk in my cart, my hands steady but my chest tight. Shoppers moved on, their glances fleeting, yet I felt exposed, like Clara's narrative had painted me as the villain. At home, I replayed the encounter, the sting of being judged for a choice I'd agonized over. Hannah stayed pouring us coffee, her presence a quiet anchor. "They're just parroting Clara's side," she said, stirring sugar into her mug. "But people are starting to talk. She's spinning this like you're heartless." I nodded, staring at the steam rising from my cup. Clara's reach was longer than I'd thought, her story spreading like wildfire, twisting my truth. Later, Marcus invited me to a community barbecue, a small gathering in his apartment complex's courtyard. I went, craving normalcy, the smell of grilled burgers and laughter. A brief escape. There I met his sister Lila, a woman with kind eyes and a soft southern drawl. Over paper plates of coleslaw, she shared her own story. A sister who'd stolen from her, lied, and left her to pick up the pieces. "I forgave her," Lila said, her voice steady. "But I set boundaries. Took years, but I found peace." Her words hit deep, a mirror to my own struggle. I wanted that peace, but Clara's shadow still loomed, her friend's accusations echoing in my mind. As the barbecue wound down, Marcus pulled me aside, his voice low. "Heard Clara's telling everyone you're jealous that you cut her off to control her. Just thought you should know." His eyes were gentle, but the news landed like a stone. That night, James and I sat down to plan our vow renewal, a simple courthouse ceremony to reclaim what we'd lost. He sketched out ideas on a napkin, his handwriting messy but hopeful, a quiet dinner after just close friends. I smiled, but my mind drifted to Clara, to the rumors she was spreading, the life she was rebuilding on lies. I'd shifted the balance, stopped her free ride, but she was fighting back, reshaping the story to cast me as the enemy. I stood in my living room, the napkin with James's plans in my hand, and looked out at the city lights. Lila's story, Marcus's warning, Hannah's defense, they swirled in my head, a reminder of the cost of my choice. Clara was out there struggling, but so was I, caught in the ripples of a truth I dared to expose. The fight wasn't over, and as I folded the napkin, my heart sank heavy with the quiet realization that some battles leave no winners, only scars. The morning of our courthouse vow renewal dawned soft, the sky a pale blue streaked with wisps of cloud. I stood in my bedroom, slipping into a cream-colored dress, simple and sleeveless, the fabric cool against my skin. No veil, no fuss, just me and the mirror, my reflection steady. James was already at the courthouse with Hannah and Marcus, setting up a small table for our lunch after. I smoothed the dress, my fingers lingering on the hem, and felt a quiet hum inside me, like the world had slowed just for today. I drove to the cemetery first, a detour I hadn't planned but needed. Dad's grave was under a sprawling maple, the leaves just starting to turn gold. I knelt, brushing dirt from the headstone, his name etched in clean block letters. I hadn't been here in months, too caught up in Clara's chaos. But now, with the grass soft under my knees, I spoke to him. "I tried, Dad," I said, my voice low. "I held us together as long as I could. I hope you're proud." The wind stirred, carrying the scent of cut grass, and I smiled, imagining his nod, his calloused hand on my shoulder. I pulled his old watch from my pocket, a battered thing with a leather strap, its hands still ticking. James would wear it today, a piece of Dad to carry us forward. I tucked it back, standing, and felt lighter, like I'd left some old weight behind with the stone. Clara's absence was a shadow, but it didn't consume me anymore. I'd made my choice, and today was about what I was building, not what I'd lost. My phone buzzed as I walked back to my car, a text from Mom. "I'm sorry for taking sides. I didn't see how much you carried. Can we talk soon?" I stared at the words, my thumb hovering. Her apology was fragile, incomplete without Clara's name, but it was a crack in the wall between us. I typed back, "Maybe soon. Today's my day." I hit send, my chest loosening, and drove to the courthouse, the road ahead clear. The courthouse was old, its marble steps worn smooth by years of footsteps. Inside the hallway smelled of polished wood and coffee, a hum of voices echoing off high ceilings. Hannah met me at the door, her eyes bright, a single daisy tucked in her hair. "You look beautiful," she said, squeezing my arm. Ready to make it official again, I laughed, the sound easy, and nodded. Marcus was there too, setting out plates for our small reception, his grin wide. Their presence felt like a tether grounding me in this new chapter. I stood by a window waiting for James and looked out at the town square below, people moving through their lives unaware of mine. I thought of Clara somewhere out there, working her shifts, maybe angry, maybe lost. I didn't hate her, not anymore. I'd given her what I could, and letting go was my final gift. Today I was choosing joy, not because the pain was gone, but because I'd learned to carry it differently. James appeared, his tie slightly crooked, the watch on his wrist glinting. He took my hand, his fingers warm, and we walked toward the judge's chambers. My heart beat steady, not racing, a rhythm of calm I hadn't felt in years. Whatever came next, I was ready, anchored in this moment, this choice, this quiet strength I'd found within myself. The judge's chambers were small, the walls lined with bookshelves, a single window letting in soft afternoon light. James and I stood before her, our hands clasped, the air warm and still. Hannah and Marcus sat behind us, their quiet presence like a steady pulse. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and a kind smile, read our vows, her voice clear and unhurried. I looked at James, his eyes steady, Dad's watch ticking softly on his wrist, and felt a calm settle deep in my bones. We spoke our promises, simple words of honesty and resilience, each one a thread weaving us back together. When I said I choose you every day, my voice was soft but sure, and James's grip tightened, his smile small but real. The judge pronounced us renewed, and Hannah let out a quiet sob, her daisy slipping loose. Marcus clapped his grin wide, and for a moment the room held only us, a tiny world of second chances. We signed the papers, our names side by side, and stepped into the hallway, the weight of the past lighter than it had ever been. Back at my apartment, we hosted a small dinner, just the four of us. The table was crowded with takeout containers, pizza and salads, the scent of garlic and basil filling the air. Lila joined us, her laughter warm as she told stories of her own messy but joyful wedding years ago. Over glasses of sparkling water, she leaned toward me, her voice low. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting Emily. It means choosing what you carry. You're doing that. Her words landed gently like a hand on my shoulder, and I nodded, feeling their truth. As we ate, I thought of Clara, not with anger, but with a distant ache like a bruise fading. I didn't know where she was, what she was doing, and for the first time I didn't need to. I'd spent so long tethered to her, my life shaped by her needs, but now I was free to shape my own. The thought wasn't loud or triumphant. It was quiet, a realization that had grown slowly like a seed breaking through soil. After dinner, Elise's latest assignment came to mind, to journal about who I was without Clara's shadow. I slipped into my bedroom, the others' laughter filtering through the door, and opened my notebook. I wrote about the woman I was becoming, someone who loved fiercely, but guarded her heart, who built a life not from duty, but from choice. The pen moved easily, the words flowing, and when I set it down, I felt whole, like I'd finally met myself. Later, as James and I cleaned up stacking plates in the sink, he hummed a tune off-key but familiar. I laughed, nudging him, and he pulled me close, our foreheads touching. "We're okay," he whispered, and I believed him. I slept that night, his arm around me, the city's hum faint through the window. My dreams were soft, untroubled, a stillness I hadn't known in years. Clara was gone, not just from my life, but from the weight of my thoughts, and in her absence I found space to breathe, to be. The morning waited, gentle and open, and I was ready to meet it. Months slipped by and life took on a new rhythm, steady and unhurried. James and I opened a small bakery, a corner shop with big windows and a bell that jingled with every customer. I'd wake before dawn, the air cool and quiet, and knead dough in the back, my hands dusted with flour. The smell of rising bread filled the space, warm and grounding, a kind of alchemy that felt like home. James handled the front, his easy laugh drawing regulars, while I shaped loaves, each one a small act of creation. Mornings were my favorite, those hours before the world woke up. I'd stand by the oven, watching croissants turn golden, and feel a peace I hadn't known was possible. The bakery wasn't just a business. It was ours, built from the ashes of what we'd nearly lost. Hannah dropped by most weekends, her sleeves rolled up, icing cupcakes, or teasing James about his terrible latte art. Her presence was a constant, a reminder of the family I'd chosen, not just the one I'd been born into. One evening, as I locked up, a notification pinged on my phone. An email from Clara, short and plain, sent from an address I didn't recognize. "I'm sorry for what I did. I'm working, trying to figure things out. I hope you're okay." I stood on the sidewalk, the streetlights buzzing softly, and read it again. No excuses, no blame, just a few words that felt like a pebble dropped in still water. I didn't reply, not yet. I slipped the phone into my pocket and walked home, the night air crisp against my face. Her apology was a start, but it didn't erase the years, and I didn't need it to move forward. At home, I started a new habit, one Elise had suggested, sitting on my couch with a cup of chamomile tea, letting my thoughts settle. I'd think about the bakery, the way customers lingered, sharing stories over coffee. I'd think about James, his steady hand in mine, our quiet evenings cooking dinner music playing low. I'd think about myself, the woman I was becoming, someone who could stand in her own light without apology. Those moments, small and ordinary, were stitching me back together thread by thread. I visited Dad's grave again one Sunday, the cemetery dappled with autumn light. I brought a single daffodil, its yellow bright against the stone, and sat cross-legged on the grass. I didn't speak this time, just listened to the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of a lawnmower. I felt him there, not in the stone, but in the quiet strength I'd found, the part of me that kept going. I left the flower and walked away, my steps light the past, a soft echo rather than a weight. Back at the bakery, I started a small tradition. Every Friday I'd set out a tray of free cookies for kids, their laughter filling the shop as they grabbed chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin. Watching them, I saw glimpses of the future I wanted, not just with James, but with a community, a life rooted in giving without losing myself. The days were long, the work hard, but they were mine, and that was enough. As I closed up one night, the bell jingling behind me, I paused, breathing in the cool air, feeling the world settle into place. One quiet evening, I sat on the bakery's back steps, the day's work done, the sky a deep indigo above. The air carried a hint of rain, and I pulled my sweater tighter, listening to the soft clatter of dishes from a nearby restaurant. I thought about the years I'd spent holding Clara up, my life shaped by her needs, my heart tethered to her choices. I'd let go, not out of anger, but to find myself. That choice, hard and slow, had brought me here to a life I'd built with my own hands. I started mentoring a few young women who came to the bakery, girls navigating family struggles, their stories echoing mine in small ways. I'd listen over coffee, offering advice or just a nod, and see their shoulders relax, their eyes brighten. It wasn't about fixing them, it was about showing them they could fix themselves. Those moments, fleeting but real, taught me something: healing isn't a finish line. It's a practice. A daily choice to show up, to choose compassion without losing your own ground. I thought about forgiveness, not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that sets you free. I didn't hate Clara anymore. I didn't need to. She was out there piecing together her own life, and I wished her well from a distance. My heart had room for that now because I'd learned to save space for myself. I'd learned that love doesn't mean carrying someone else's weight, and strength doesn't mean never breaking. It means choosing which pieces to pick up and which to leave behind. James and I grew stronger, our evenings filled with small rituals, reading on the couch, planning new recipes, laughing at his terrible puns. The bakery thrived, not because it was perfect, but because it was ours, a testament to what we'd rebuilt. I wasn't the girl who'd clung to a locket hoping to save her sister. I was Emily, whole in my own right, living a life that felt true. The lesson I carry now is simple, but heavy: betrayal can break you, but it doesn't define you. You define you. Every choice to let go, to rebuild, to love again is a step toward freedom. It's not about being unbroken, it's about knowing your cracks and building something beautiful anyway. I'm still learning, still choosing, but I'm not afraid anymore. I found my ground and I'm standing on it. What's a moment you chose yourself over someone else's chaos? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this journey resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Your support means the world to this little bakery of stories. Thank you for listening, for being here. Here's to healing, to choosing you, and to finding light in the quiet moments. Take care.